So welcome to the Theory Practice of Evangelism. I am Owen Ross. I will like to be called Dr. Ross until you turn in your final paper, and then please don't call me Dr. Ross again. And you could call me Owen after that, which is my my preference. And I want to go around and I appreciate y'all's introduction videos. I loved seeing them. I loved watching them. And I am sorry I put it in an assignment instead of a discussion on Canvas, because if it had been a discussion, y'all could have seen each other's. But since it's an assignment, I was the only one who got to enjoy the great videos. And so I appreciate that. And I'm sorry. And I've now gone in and fixed the next ones to be in discussions rather than in assignments, so that y'all can see each other. So, but I want to go around and have you introduce yourself. We'll use the invitation method. And so if you will just share your name, what church you're at, and what city and state that is in, and then and if you're moving, go ahead and name what church, city, and state you will be going to in this season. And then when you're done, invite the next person who hasn't shared to go ahead and introduce themselves. And so I'll start with the person who was first on tonight. So Ruben. Oh, and go ahead and share what you want to be called as well.
Sure. Well, you can call me Ruben Signs. But can you hear me? Yes. All right. We have a thunderstorm coming in as well, so forgive me if it says my internet just came across at unstable. So, but Ruben Signs the third, currently in San Antonio, Texas, for 4 more weeks, and then I will be heading up north to Fort Worth, where I'll begin a new appointment up there at Genesis United Methodist Church. I am in my final semester of the MDiv program. I just walked in May as a summer grad, and so I'm taking, but I still have 2 more courses, so I gotta take those this summer. I'm glad to be in this class. And what was the other question? Am I missing one?
That was it, and just invite the next person.
All right, I'm gonna go with my brother Deontay.
I appreciate it, Ruben. Can everyone hear me? Okay, Deontay Hayden. Call me Deontay or D, it's fine. Um, I am in Wichita, Kansas. I work full-time in IT, but I just let my boss know last Wednesday that I'll be making a transition into full-time ministry, which starts July 1st. And so that weight is off my shoulder and I can do the Lord's work full-time. So I'm excited about that. I am in Wichita, Kansas, and I will stay at St. Mark United Methodist. I was a young adult minister, just volunteer my times, but I'll be the associate pastor come July 1st. So yeah, that's it. And I invite Andrew to go next.
Hi, my name is Andrew Phillips. I am in Rosenberg, Texas. We go to church at St. John's, just down the street and around the corner in Richmond. I am an instructor of cybersecurity. I have no ministry appointment, so I'm not moving anywhere. Is there anything? Oh, and I like to be called Andrew. If you call me Andy and I don't correct you, it means either I like you or you're relatively old or both. Old folks get away with calling me Andy. Everyone else, I prefer Andrew. And I will invite Madeline.
Okay, hi, I'm Madeline, and I do prefer to be called Madeline. I currently live in Richardson, and I work at Walnut Hill Church here in Dallas, which is a part of Lover's Lane United Methodist Church. And yeah, I just finished up my first year at Perkins. I'm seeking ordination in Oklahoma, so I'll be here in Dallas for another year and then heading on to Oklahoma. So yeah. Oh, sorry. I'll invite Jason to share.
Hello, my name is Jason. I've been told I look like I have a gamer setup, but I'm not a gamer at all. I can just hear better with this type of microphone. I am about a year and a half into an MDiv. About 20 years ago, I finished up a Master of Sacred Music, so I've been in music ministry for the past 20 years. Most recently, I served in Grapevine for 8 years, and now I'm at Trophy Club, Fellowship United Methodist Church and Trophy Club, and I just started that job in May. As I say, I'm working on finishing up an MDiv and looking forward to finishing and seeing what this class has to offer. And I do prefer to be called Jason. I will now like to invite Linda to introduce herself.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Linda Bell. Most people call me Miss Linda or just Linda. I am a native Dallasite, and I am lead pastor at Elizabeth Chapel Christian Methodist Episcopal Church in Dallas, Texas. And this is my second year MDiv and my third year at Elizabeth Chapel. So looking forward to a great semester. And Luke, we invite you.
Hi, I'm Luke Thompson. I am from Dallas. Prefer to be called Luke. I am the local licensed pastor at FUMC Frisco, and I will be not moving but adding on some additional part-time as a local pastor at Christ UMC Plano. And I apologize for the road noise and things. We still don't have power. And so we're headed to Forney to stay with my wife's sister. So sorry about all that, but trying to still at least be able to hear. I can't see who to call on next for safety. So Linda, why don't you pick someone else?
Yeah, you are actually last, Luke, and I feel for you as well. I am in my parents' house right now, Zooming you because I have no power in my house either. And so I feel for you, and I wrapped a plastic bag around my refrigerator to say, don't open the door, hoping that, the cool will preserve something and it won't be awful, but we'll see how that works out. I want to share with y'all a little bit about my background and my perspective, so you know where I'm coming from. And I want to invite you. I tend to take disagreements well. I like straightforward, transparent conversation. In my last class, I opened up, it was all in person. I said, what do you think about evangelism really? And one of the students said, I think it's garbage. And then afterwards came up and says, I apologize, Dr. Ross, for calling your life work garbage. But as the course progressed, this student really blossomed and came to embrace evangelism as they understood it. But I am not a professional educator. This is good and bad. The bad part of it, you've already suffered with some of the technology and not getting things tweaked and posted right. And so I appreciate those of you who've reached out to me via email or text and saying, hey, this isn't working. This is. So please, you have my cell phone number. Feel free to text. You can email. You can whatever means of communication. Don't ever hesitate. I'm soliciting the feedback. I understand this. I haven't done a virtual course in a couple of summers, and so this is so. I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate your help, and I appreciate anytime something's not working, let me know. The grace extended to me, I will be returning that grace to you. The good part about me not being a professor is I'm in the field all the time. I am a practitioner. My education, I have a double major from Texas A&M in international studies and political science. And so when it comes to organization of people and understanding various cultures, that was my background in undergrad. When I graduated, I joined the U.S. Peace Corps. I raised pigs in Ecuador for 2 years and lived there an additional 4 months to the 2 years of service. And so you can email me if you have any questions about swine nutrition, because I have this knowledge that I never get to share, and it's pretty much useless to me today. But if you're just curious about any swine nutrition questions, feel free to shoot them my way, for that was my expertise in the U.S. Peace Corps. I came back and went where you are now, to SMU, and I got my MDiv from SMU. And part of my studies, I went and studied at Africa University in Zimbabwe, where I studied African Christian theology and took evangelism and church planting from the founding vice chancellor of Africa University, John Wesley Kurewa, who sometimes preaching professors will assign his book as to get a different perspective. But it really just opened my eyes to evangelism and to church planting, and I'll be referring to my time in Africa from time to time in this course, I'm sure. Upon returning from there, Sarah Wilkie, if any of you know her, Sarah Wilkie, Bishop Oden, and Stan Copeland had gotten together and planned out the rest of my life. I came back and they said, you speak Spanish. We have a lot of Spanish speakers in Dallas, and we want you to plant a Spanish-speaking church. I said, I've never been a part of a Spanish-speaking church, and I'm not even a part of the North Texas Conference. And they said, don't worry about that. You know, we feel this is what you need to do. And so I got permission from my bishop in the Texas Conference to be able to do this plant in the North Texas Conference, and have not left the North Texas Conference since. Moved into the neighborhood, and this was in 2002, and I started knocking doors, meeting people, and spent 15 years there. And it grew into the largest Spanish language church in the United Methodist Church. And I just kind of look at myself, and as the only member of my family that speaks Spanish, just, you know, find myself amazed that God would choose to work through someone, really a country boy from Henderson, Texas, and to do an urban Spanish language ministry. But just amazing people were sent in Salvi. I learned so much process, made so many mistakes through that whole process, and I'll look forward to sharing a lot of the learnings along the way from that. And then along the way, I got a doctor of ministry as part of the Beeson Leadership Program at Asbury Seminary, and it was a good program. And my dissertation was the role of social services in evangelism. How can we faithfully, effectively, and appropriately leverage our social services, our outreach for evangelistic purposes? And so we'll be talking about that quite a bit in the class as well. But for the past 8 years, I've been the director for the Center for Church Development in the North Texas Conference, leading new church starts, strategic initiatives, and basically leading the evangelism strategies of the North Texas Conference. And as you can imagine, there's been a lot of learnings in that whole process, and learning from a lot of different contexts within the conference. And starting July 1, I'll be the director of multiplication for the Horizon Texas Conference, which is the new conference that is being formed between North Texas, Central Texas, and Northwest Texas Conference. And so my wife is Xochitl Ross. She's from Mexico, and we got 2 boys, a 10-year-old and a 9-year-old, and they're a handful. And I spent an hour in the walk-in refrigerator in a Denny's with the 10-year-old this morning, avoiding a tornado. So it's been an adventurous day for us. So I want to say I love this course, and I've designed this course. Say this is the course I wish I would have had when I was in seminary. I felt when I came out of Perkins, I felt like I was so equipped to talk theology. It's a school of theology. If you can't talk theology, and you can't do theology, but I was called to plant this church. And, on one hand, I said, they really taught me how to talk about the poor, but not really how to talk with them. How do I make disciples of Jesus Christ among a new population? How do I start a church from scratch? And I said, well, how do we make new disciples? How do we reach people? And so this is the course that I wish I had. And so I designed as such. I also get a lot of feedback from each of the students, and this course has been significantly tweaked each time I've given it. Your final assignment that you have is to give me direct feedback, not in lieu of your course evaluation, but as an assignment for me to get that feedback, just to do my work better and to keep learning as we go. And it's that feedback that has tweaked this course all along. You can thank your predecessors in this course, because we used to have 3 papers and now we only have 2 papers. And so they have made that gift for you. And so I'm sure you will be offering gifts and making this course better for people in the future. The second reason I love this course is it's applicable. It's designed to be applied. This course is all going to be leading to your evangelism experiment that you are going to design, and I pray you will implement in your ministry context. And so it's designed to afterwards, if you want to write a grant, all of the work is done by the end of this course. So if you want a grant for your evangelism experiment, by the time we're done here, you'll get it. And I've had many people who've taken this course in the North Texas Conference, then turn around and apply for a grant from the center I direct, the Center for Church Development. And then we were able to fund it because it was an excellently written grant that had a lot of feedback along the way. And so it's designed to help us do what y'all will be doing for your professional career, is how do we design new ways to reach populations we're not currently reaching. And so that's what we'll be designing. And so it's the final reason is it's designed to be very straightforward. That I try to be as clear as I can. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm wanting. And so with that, I want to hop into the evangelism experiments. But let me pause right there if there's any questions or comments on anything I shared along the way so far. All right. Hearing none, instead of hopping into the syllabus, I want to hop to this evangelism guide. Because this guide is 60% of your grade. 20% of part 1 and then 40% of part 2. And mainly because you will be turning in part 1 when you turn in part 2 again. And so you'll see what I'm talking about. So is everybody seeing this? You can nod your head. Yeah. All right. So everything in red will be erased, but only at the end of the course. These are the instructions in this document. And so this document is already on the syllabus, but I'll also upload this document to the chat tonight and I'll email it out. I will make sure there's many ways in which you have this document. So the idea is by the end of it, it'll be a 27 to 35 page long paper, which sounds like a really long paper. And I guess in some ways it is, but no, there's no other papers you're going to be writing. Like in a lot of the classes where you have the 5-page reflection paper on a reading, there's none of that. There's no midterm exam. So all the papers you would be writing for a midterm, all the on the test you'd be writing, that's included in this. There's no final exam in this course. And so all of the writing and studying and preparation you'll be doing for a final exam, that's in this paper. And so whereas it may, in the end, it will be a long paper and it will be a significant paper. It is the, again, 60% of the grade. It is where you will be proving that you've read and that you've understood and you can apply all that you engaged all the lectures, engaged all the readings, and can apply those. And so again, I explained that in there. And so you will leave all of that read in there, as this paper is both academic and practical. So I write in here that not being overwhelmed. This whole course is designed to fill out this paper as you go along. And so when I start going over the syllabus, I want you to remember this paper, because unit 2 is designed with the first part of the paper. So each unit is part of the paper. And so as we do each unit, both the readings and the lectures, you should just plug in that part of the paper. So by the time the paper is due, you're just making it flow well, doing rewrites, linking your notes together, reflecting on your notes, and applying those. But it's designed to be put together piece by piece based on the units of the course. And you'll see that as we go over the syllabus in just a moment. Here is where most people fly or die, is how much you demonstrate the mastery of the lectures and all the readings. Because there's no reflection paper, it does take a higher level of thinking about putting in your notes. And for example, we may have a reading, you say that reading doesn't have anything to do with my context. Well, what I'm challenging you to do is to reflect on that context, reflect on that reading, and however it may contrast from it, what can you learn from that would apply? And this comes from me learning at Perkins Asbury African University, living in Ecuador, coming from a rural setting and an urban setting. These were very different contexts. There's things I've learned in each of those contexts that affected how I pastored for those 15 years and planted that church, and how I've done my work the last 8 years in the ministry that I'm in. And so if you read digitally, then go ahead and how you can copy highlights and just start plugging them into this document here, so that when you get ready to write it or write that section, you already have it in. Or if you do handwritten notes, I'd encourage you to print this out and then have it right beside you as you read, and just jot down the page in the different sections of where you saw something that you think you may use in this paper. And again, I'm asking you to engage all the readings, all the lectures, because it shows that's how I'm going to know that you have read and mastered the assigned work, in that is through putting it in this document. Again, make sure to give proper credit and do your citations scrupulously. I'm going to ask you not to do any quotes from the readings, because I can read what the authors wrote. I want to know what you understand that they wrote. So for example, you would say, Pope Levison says that this model is da 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 da, but use your own words to express her concepts that she's sharing, and then put what page that concept is on. Before I go any further, questions about that? About what I'm looking for in that? All right, hearing none. I prefer MLA formatting. I just find it the easiest, because all you have to do is at the end of your sentence, put the name and the page number, and that's it. No footnotes, no endnotes. And at the end, you put works cited. So anybody you cited, make sure they're in the works cited page, and you'll see in the works cited page, I've already gotten that started for you with our assigned readings. Again, try not to quote the book, but make sure you use page numbers and scripture references. And in the MLA format, I just find it quite easy. If you really, really, really want to do it in a different format, check with me. I'm much more interested in the content than I am in the format. So if you're really, really prefer another format besides MLA, just send me an email, and I imagine I'll be able to work with you on that. So, questions on that? All right. So when you turn in part 1, all of this red part above will still be there. But when you turn in at the end of the course, you'll then erase all the red. So here we start with part 1. This is our first written assignment. And so again, reminders to engage.
Dr. Ross,
Yes.
quick question. So you said keep the red text until we're ready for section 2. So it would, so our 12 to 15 pages for that section, need to be all of our own writing, not including the red text, correct?
Correct.
Because that's going to disappear. That's going to be deleted. Gotcha.
At the end, yes. But when you turn in part
At the
one,
end,
leave
gotcha.
it there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Good question. Thanks for that. And so again, engage the text. When you do not engage, you will demonstrate zero comprehension. So you got to demonstrate that you read it and you got it and you understand it and you can apply it. All right. So some of you already shared a working definition of evangelism, which I loved, and they're good stuff. And so what you will start this off by saying evangelism is, those will be the first 2 words of every one of your papers. And you'll put evangelism is, and then you're going to share your own definition of evangelism. And I imagine this definition will evolve throughout the course. And you're going to get ample feedback on it from your classmates and from your professor. And you're going to present it as the definition. And so after you write evangelism is this, don't ever say my definition of evangelism is, because it's not your definition of evangelism. It is the definition of evangelism that you wrote. And it's your understanding of evangelism and your writing it. We're going to be exposed to a bunch of definitions of evangelism, but I want you to develop your own understanding of it and your own definition. I have my own, and I'll probably share it at some point, but I really want you to have yours, and that they've been, and develop your own. And again, you won't call it my definition, but you're going to say evangelism is, and then you're going to defend that definition of evangelism is evangelism in this first part of the paper. And again, it can evolve till you turn in at the very end of the course. So you'll open up with that, kind of share a few of what the key words are and why you chose those words. And then I'm going to ask you to find 3 other definitions. There's plenty of definitions in all the readings that we have. I'll be sharing a number of definitions in class, so finding 3 definitions to choose is going to be easy for you. But I want you there to say, how yours is different, why they're wrong, while I'm wrong, why, whatever definition that you have, why your definition is more accurate than their definition. And so you'll be sharing with that, and make sure you put those citations. And so in the theology of evangelism, again, you're going back to your definition again, and you're going to be talking about and so you could say the theology of your definition of evangelism, but remember, your definition of evangelism is the definition of evangelism for the purposes of this paper. And so you'll look for what theological doctrines back up this definition of evangelism, and make sure you address the doctrines that are addressed in Pope Levinson's models of evangelism. It's not that you have to limit yourself to all the doctrines that she presents, but it's going to be the way that I know you read her book and comprehended the doctrines that she presented. And then you will be also adding scripture that shows that your definition is both orthodox and orthoprax, meaning it explains why we evangelize, and how your definition also shows how evangelism took place in scripture. And again, lots of notes on the reading, as well as include scriptures, and trying not to quote them. Now I can let you get away a little bit with quoting scripture, but again, I'd still rather have your own words of what those scriptures are, what those verses are saying, or what the readings are saying. Your own words of explaining them is my preference. So the next part is going into the models of evangelism. don't select media or digital. That'll be at another one. That'll be in part 2. But I want you to select 3 of the 4 models that best demonstrate your definition and explain those and how they relate to your definition of evangelism. And again, 2 or 3 pages on that. Then Wesleyan evangelism. Do we have anyone who is not of a Wesleyan tradition here in our course? Nope. All good Methodists? Great. So we will stick with the Wesley tradition. If we had somebody else, we could explore using someone else besides Wesley. But since we're all Wesleyans here, and part of the course is for Wesleyan understanding, and I do think we're hard pressed to find a better evangelist in world history after the Apostle Paul than John Wesley. He was very effective at his evangelism. And again, we'll relate your definition and relating to the Wesley movement. Then we'll go into the modern movements of evangelism. We will be talking about fresh expressions, new spaces, micro churches, and we have readings that are related to that. And you'll see how your definition relates to those and encompasses those. Then your conclusion of part 1. And so at the end of this, you will turn in part 1. You will leave all the red parts. And then I will grade it. I'll give you feedback on it. I'll ask you to apply that feedback in your part 1 for when you turn in part 2, because the document you finish with, the reason I want part 1 and part 2 together is it's something you can present to your district superintendent, your developer, your bishop, your senior pastor, your church leadership. So you can say, here's what I feel we can do to evangelize as a church. And here's the thing. And it'll be, you'll have all the feedback from me back. It'll be all included, and it'll be hopefully a nice document that you'll be excited to share with others at how your church will be led into evangelism. All right, any questions on part 1 before we hop into part 2? Okay, hearing none. Going into part 2, this is when you're going to get down to your evangelism experiment, which will be in a specific experiment that you will design for your ministry context where you are, or where you are, if you're in the middle of a change, where you will be going. So again, I'll be asking you to edit part 1, add in the feedback, and returning it. So you'll explain what your evangelism experiment is, and hear the good news. You're going to be pitching that evangelism experiment during the class. You're going to be and I'll be giving you feedback on it. We're going to be talking about it as a class, the various experiments on what we want to do and why. The third assignment that you have is a class presentation, where we're going to pretend to be your evangelism team, and you're going to do a video to teach us on what you're going to do with the evangelism experiment, and you'll get feedback from that. So you're going to get ample opportunity to get good feedback on this experiment and to tweak it along the way with feedback from your classmates and from me. So again, the first part is basically the what, something very simple. This is what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. And then we're going to do an analysis of your ministry context. Why does this make sense for them? How did you learn about the ministry context? What makes you think that this is going to be effective with them? I am very much an anthropologist in evangelism, having lived in many different cultural settings. I love studying cultural settings. I love going into different cultural. I've done a homestay in Korea. I've been to 35 different countries. I love immersing myself in different cultures and learning from that. And I will share, you don't have to leave the country to go to a different culture. You could just walk into a different Sunday school class in your own church and you'll be walking into a different culture because each Sunday school class has its own culture. Each mission field has its own culture. Each neighborhood has its own culture. And to be effective evangelists requires being able to read and understand the culture so that the gospel's always communicated through culture, whether that's through, including language, customs, symbols, habits. And so we'll be talking a lot about culture and learning ministry contexts. And both of your own church as well as the mission field. In this one, we'll be talking about your own church, and then be talking about the culture of the mission field. The first sentence of everybody's paper on the mission field part will be the same. Evangelism is contextual. And then you'll talk about the different contexts. You'll demonstrate mastery of the readings and lectures. And then you'll describe the particular mission field that you've identified to reach through this evangelism experiment. And I'm going to push you to get very specific because there's no evangelism experiment that's for everybody. That's just simply not. It's just not. Is everybody welcome? Yes, but are you designing it for everybody? No. And so I'm going to be pushing you to try to get more specific. Who is it that you're trying to reach with this experiment? And what makes you think this will be effective? And so we'll spend a lot of time on that. And there's 3 or 4 pages you'll be writing about that. So that's a very significant part of the course, significant part of this paper, significant part of the readings. All right. Then you'll go back and look at what models of evangelism does this fit under. It may not fit under any of them, and that's okay, but you need to at least say, what is it most like, or what could you compare it to? Again, demonstrating understandings of the readings, what theological basis, doctrinal basis of your experiment that you have, similar to how Pope Levinson lays out the model, the doctrine, and the biblical references as well. We're going to spend time learning how to design vision, mission, and values. Without vision, the people will. You can put that in the chat. Finish the quote in the chat. But the vision is, and designing that vision, mission, and that's something we will be doing. I think we may be doing that one in person down in Houston. Again, the theology of your experiment. And then here, the digital mission field. And so here's where I want you to talk about the digital mission field, what it is, what you learned about it, and then what its role will be in your experiment. Now you can put, your technology may be a copy machine, because you'll be copying something out, or whatever technology you're using. But I'm going to be operating off of the assumption, if you're not using social media of some sort in your evangelism experiment, be ready to defend that, because so many people spend so much time on social media. For us not to be there trying to leverage that, it's kind of like knowing where people hang out in a neighborhood and the pastor never going there. So we'll be talking about that more, and how you might apply that. And then the discipleship pathway. You reach people, they respond. How will you be discipling them after that? And then timeline, goals, evaluation. That's pretty straightforward. Doing SMART goals in that: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So this is what we're going to do. This is what we're hoping to do. And then you will write the conclusion of it. And then you'll erase all that, and you're going to have a beautiful document that your church leadership will be amazed by. Your superintendent, your bishop, your developers will all be, wow, that's wonderful. And they will want to help support your implementing of this. So questions about that guide. Again, that is going to be 60% of your grade. And so that's why I did that even first before the syllabus. questions or comments on that?
Just,
Go ahead, Andrew.
the way, I assume what you mean by serve is currently appointed to, in terms of your ministry context.
Or if you're a volunteer in a church where you worship,
Okay,
where you serve. Yeah.
okay, cool,
Yeah. Wherever you are.
cool, good.
Yeah. Yeah. Jason.
You might get to this when we talk about the syllabus, but I noticed that there was another specific document that was, it seemed to me like it were notes as we were reading. And so is that something separate from what we just went over? It seemed like you wanted us to take notes on all the readings and lectures to be used for the document you just went over.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would say, I'd encourage you to print out this document when anytime you're reading one of the books, have this document right next to you, and you read something about Wesley and you're like, oh, this fits here. Well, jot the page number, in that section. And so that way it's going to be easy to go back and find all your notes. If you're reading with a paper, if you're reading with a digital copy, you may do the same, jot it down, or when you get through reading, I'd copy all my Wesley notes. And this is how I did it when I was writing my dissertation, copy all your notes and then paste it in that Wesley section. Like, how you can highlight as you're reading and then get your highlights and copy and then paste them. Copy all those highlights, put them in the Wesleyan section. And then when you write your section, you have all your, you have all your concepts and references already there. So that will make your work so much easier when turning in. So, but yes, that's the one I was referring to. That's a good question. Others? How are y'all feeling about this?
Slightly overwhelmed.
Okay, good. So the syllabus should help. So I will go to the syllabus now. All right, everybody's seen the syllabus, I assume? Yes, all right. Let me see if I can. You can read the course objectives, you can the learning outcomes I'll leave for you to read. The required reading, I want you to know why I chose these books. So the Chilcote and Lacey book, it is, in the Warner book, it is many, 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 many different voices from all over the world on evangelism. And I really appreciate the book. I don't appreciate every reading in there, but again, you can, one of my favorite quotes is, a wise man can learn more from a fool than a fool can from a wise man. So whether you agree with it or disagree with it, if you're wise, you can learn from it. And so you don't have to hear the good news. You don't have to read the whole book. I'm assigning some chapters, and then at our next Zoom, and we're only going to have 2 of these Zooms, at our next Zoom, we're going to have a chapter draft where you get to pick, I'll see it on the syllabus here. I think it's like pick 4 or 5 chapters that you want to read, and then you get there, and they're short chapters, easy reading. The next book, Luke Edwards, Becoming Church. It is one of my favorite evangelism books, and you could sit down and read it probably in an hour. It's very, very, very short. It's something that I think you may want to, it's something that people use as a study with their lay leadership as in designing an evangelism experiment. I really like this. I really like his book. You can see it's 21, so it's still pretty new. He does developments in the Carolinas, and he's a great guy. I just appreciate the straightforward way that he goes through this, through his trail guide for fresh expressions. And your evangelism experiment will probably be very similar to a fresh expression, if not a fresh, something that would be characterized as a fresh expression. We'll be talking about those. Transforming Evangelism, again, it's a one-night read. It's a short book. It's thin. It's easy. I've thought about getting rid of it, but the students keep coming back and they're like, no way, this is really great. We love it. I don't know if they're saying that because it's so short or if it really is that great of a book to them. And so, but it is something that you can use. It has questions at the end, good for discussion. And so it's a nice book. So the Panzer book, The Holy and the Hybrid, it's my first time using it. It just came out in 2022. I like it because it came out at the end of the pandemic shutdown season, and it's reflecting on the church and digital ministry. And so I be interested in y'all's feedback on it. I appreciated it for kind of exploring what it is. And we'll look forward to feedback. Models Evangelism. It is a solid book. It's still new, 2020, not that old of a book. And it lays it out, different models with good feedback. I really appreciate that. And then the Rogeman book. It's the most controversial that I signed. Has anybody found that book and bought that book? No. It's hard to find.
I tried,
Yeah.
but I had to order it off of the publisher's website, which is in German, and they never showed me a way to give them a credit card number, or what the price is like, what the price means in dollars.
Yeah. And I found it.
I have not succeeded in getting it.
And I found it in the Bridwell Library. And what I like about it is he takes serious the immigration that has come into Germany, and how does the church respond to the immense religious diversity in which it finds itself. None of the other readings engage that, the global South coming to the North, and how and mass, and and I spent 15 years in an immigrant community, and I mean, so he talks about everything from how do you evangelize and minister with people who really believe in demons. It's like that was one of my realities, and I didn't get anywhere prepared for that in Perkins. Well, again, I designed this course to be the course that I wish I had in Perkins, and so we'll read Rogeman's reading about that, and we'll have time to discuss that as well. And so, knowing that it's so hard I went into Perkins Library, I scanned it, and I uploaded all the readings that you have there. And so, if you're in the Dallas area, you can go to the library and check it out there. Or no matter where you are in the world, I've uploaded the readings, and so I'll make sure I have I haven't gone back to make sure I have all the chapters and all that, and I think I do. But you don't have to try to find that book. You don't have to buy that book. I've uploaded the readings there, and it's only selected chapters out of the book. But it's there's a lot about what he wrote that I appreciate, and then I find intriguing, and then it's food for thought, and then it will probably spur some good conversation in class. Any questions about the readings in the books? And many of these are available digitally from Bridwell as well. So again, I give you plenty of recommended texts. If you want any more information about any of these, I'm ready to share. So your class participation, every one of you who is on this Zoom, you already have 2 points out of the 24 points for class participation for uploading your video. Again, my apologies for not putting it in a discussion format, but because they were great videos, and I wish y'all could see your classmates' videos because they are great. And so there's basically 2 points for each unit going through, and there's assignments for each week. The midterm paper, we've already gone through. That's 20% of your grade, just that part 1. And you'll be getting feedback on that. And since you're turning in part 1 and part 2 together, and part 2 is a lot longer, it's 40% of the grade. And if you miss the mark on part 1, the good news is it's only 20% of your grade. So it doesn't affect as much, and you will know how you might have missed the mark to fix it on part 2, and then make those edits in part 1. And so we should do well in the course. Then we'll have a class presentation, of which it will be virtual. And so basically you're going to be making a video on this is our evangelism experiment. And you'll be treating the class as if we are your evangelism team. And in the same way, preaching class, you preach a sermon and then get feedback as if they're the congregation. You'll do a presentation to us as if we're your evangelism team or your church leadership. And then we'll give you feedback in the same way we would as if this was a preaching class, but it's on a presentation. Questions about course requirements and grading?
You have any advice on how to, I guess, mitigate not doing well on the 20% midterm, so we don't have to play catch up or feel pressure going into the end of the semester?
Yes. Follow the red. The red in that paper explains clearly and repetitively what I'm looking for.
Got it.
So yeah, and that's why I say don't erase it. That way I know that you saw the instructions because they're there when you turn them in. So yeah, if you follow that red, just plug it in piece by piece as we go, you're going to do great. It's going to be an easy class and an easy A. So, but if you don't, it won't be. It'll be harder. All right. So read the models of evangelism. I always loved in seminary when you get the first day of class and you saw you had reading that was already due. And so I'm carrying that tradition on. And but I make up for it in the second one. We're in our synchronistic Zoom right now. Y'all, I was going to do the introduction, but I wanted a video so y'all could all see it. And I asked y'all to do that. I appreciate y'all doing that. And again, my apologies for not making that discussion. All right, so this week, since we're already in Unit 2, since I said read for week 1, week 2 I put review notes of what you read, which chances are, I imagine some of you are reading the models of evangelism this week, which is fine. But next week has the most reading of the whole course. And so I intentionally did that so it wouldn't fall on any midterm weeks. But it's a heavy week next week. But know when you get done next week, your heaviest week of reading is done. So finish Pope Levinson and then get a head start on next week's reading because it's a lot. I have it set up for a discussion video. We briefly went around and we just said our name, but I want you to go and where you are, but make a 3-minute video and talk about the context that you're in, the church, how long you've been there, etc. And looking ahead to Unit 4, I know this makes introverts and others squirm, but I do want you to experiment with personal evangelism. And this is one of my favorite assignments of the course because every time we've done this, people have come back with testimonies. And some of them are positive. There was, but finding a way to approach somebody you don't know and have a gospel conversation with them and about their faith, about your faith, about Jesus, and just I'll be praying for the Spirit to lead you. I would challenge you to go into the neighborhood where I planted my church and find a door I didn't knock on. I did door-to-door evangelism. I know culturally it's different in different places doing door-to-door evangelism. I had a friend, though, who's pastor at Wesley United Methodist Church in Greenville, and he says his church decided to go out one Sunday afternoon and do door-to-door evangelism just to experiment with it. And they were amazed at the positive response they got. If you don't want to go door-to-door, don't feel comfortable going door-to-door, find a setting where you would be comfortable talking to somebody you don't know and strike up a conversation. And worst case scenario, you can go up to somebody you don't know and say, hey, I'm a student in seminary and my professor's requiring me to talk to somebody about faith. Can we talk? And then you can see where things go from there. But that will be for Unit 4. We'll be getting feedback on your experience with that. So that is Unit 2. And again, at each point in the syllabus, I'm telling you, go ahead and look at the 3 or 4 models of evangelism in that reading as you're reading, in that section that talks about the models of evangelism, start putting the pages in there and your notes in there. And so, and you can start writing that section. The next is defining evangelism. Again, it's be easier. So you can see there's a lot of readings. Introduction through chapters 5, then 13 and 16 of the Chilcote Warner. And that, again, that's a collection of different authors. And what you have to do with taking notes on there, put the author of the chapter in that section. Since Chilcote and Warner are editors, you want to have the actual author of that chapter. And so when writing the page number, you do need to go ahead and write the author, or when you're writing the page number, go back and make sure you're referencing the author of that chapter. Does that make sense? Okay. In the Rogman book, again, these should be uploaded. If you are not finding these, let me know ASAP, and I'll make sure that you have these, so I can email them out. If you're not finding them, let me know, and I will make sure you get them. Then introduction in chapters 1 and 2 of Transforming Evangelism. There's a number of definitions of evangelism there, and so that's why I went and put that during this part. Review the introduction again of models of evangelism with Pope Levinson. There's some definitions in there. Take notes because your assignment is to share next week is going to be to share your own unique definition of evangelism. Evangelism is. And then the rest of the first paragraph, you'll explain like what the words are. Do not use the word my definition. So as you're seeing all this, this should be looking familiar because this is exactly what you're going to plug in. And so you're going to do this as an assignment in a discussion board, get feedback from your classmates, get feedback from your professor, and then you're going to have it ready to plug into the paper, the assigned paper. And so you're getting a head start on your paper. You're getting feedback as we go along. And then share at least one theological doctrine that affirms your definition. And again, that's a 1 sentence. This sentence, and write a little paragraph about Bible verses that reference it, both orthodoxy and then orthopraxy. And again, these will then go back into your paper, and you'll be getting feedback on it, and from your classmates as well as from me. And you're asked to comment on a minimum of 3 of your classmates' posts. And be very gracious, be generous, but help them out. Like, if you see their definition is very limiting, for example, if somebody says sharing the gospel to for those who have never heard it, well, ask the question: is it limited to those who have not heard? So if those who have heard and hadn't responded, can they be evangelized as well? Asking questions like that, but just as questions, not as a debate. Like, this can't be evangelism. Just doing it in a question form to help sharpen our definitions. All right. Again, this is the longest assignment of the whole semester, but it's a significant head start on your paper to get you running before midterms, exams, before in-person starts. And to kind of get that, that boost. The rocket uses the most energy to get off the ground. And so that's kind of that's what Unit 3 is, getting you investing a lot of energy here to get you off the ground. So you can start writing your first drafts in there because you would have that information in that. Any questions about Unit 3? All right. Good news is in 2 weeks it'll be over. And we will be on to Unit 4, Wesleyan Evangelism. You just have to finish Knight and Poe, which again is a one-night read. You would already have a head start. That will be an easy one. Then you're going to share your video of your experience of sharing the gospel with people that you did not know with personal evangelism. And I know we will all enjoy watching each other's videos and hearing about our experiences and how the Lord will work in that or not. So any questions about that assignment? All right, I can see the eagerness in your faces. All right, fresh expressions, new spaces, and micro churches. Again, Edwards Becoming Church, really short read. And then this is when we're going to have another Zoom. So I will send that doodle poll out sooner rather than later. If you know there's going to be another course having a Zoom at that time, let me know so I can be sure and say, hey, don't pick this one anymore, or I won't pick that as one of the options. And so that'll be our other synchronistic Zoom. In that, we're going to have our chapter draft. We're going to pick 5 chapters from the Chilcote Warner, so you can start looking about who looks interesting to you, who might be relevant to your context, and then there's some guidelines on what chapters can be or not, and then we'll just get together and we'll have a draft. And we're also going to go over the part 1 again of your assignment. This will be before you turn that in. We'll come back and you'll be reporting on, when we meet in person, you'll report on what chapters you read from Chilcote so people can get exposed to that. In that also, it's going to be the first time you pitch your evangelism experiment. And this is when you're going to say, we are thinking about doing, this is our evangelism experiment, and I'll be giving you feedback, and classmates will hear. And you're not restricted to what you pitch. I remember one year I had a student pitch that they were going to go evangelize in a washateria. They were going to take a bunch of quarters in there, and they were going to pay for people's laundry and try to talk to them and talk to their kids. And when they got their pitching, I said, how many people in your church wash their clothes in a washateria? Or how many people do you know? And she says, I don't know of any of them. And I said, that's kind of obvious to me, because as someone who intentionally washed their clothes in a washateria, I know hardly any washaterias take quarters anymore. They're all card-based. And you'll probably be better off finding a culture where you're not having to overcome culture to reach people, of who is somebody more in a line. And this student started sharing, you know what, we feed the students at our high school once a week, and they're all in there, and we do no spiritual services to them. And I was like, that seems like a lower hanging fruit and a more of a cultural match, that you're not having to overcome, things like having to learn they don't use quarters to be able to do this experiment in. And she did that and came up with a fantastic experiment with those high school students. So again, you'll be thinking about what makes sense to you as we go through the course. And so we'll be making that pitch on that Zoom, and we'll probably schedule it for an hour and a half or 2 hours to give everybody time to pitch. But again, hopefully we can keep it pretty brief, but that will be, keep it under that time, but I want to give us maximum time. I don't want y'all to hear each other's pitches to help you kind of redefine yours. And you may, in that process. And classmates will be sharing feedback in that. Any questions about that? All right. And after that, part one of the final project will be due that next time on part 6, on unit 6. I guess that means you have 5 weeks now, 4 weeks, start working on that. We'll do acculturation evangelism against the more Rogeman readings, selected chapters. And then I'll have you do kind of a video on that. Again, it's a challenging one. Just want to, you're having to write so much to turn in part 1. So that's why I'm not having you do any writing that week. Just hit record and do a 3-minute video with your observations and reflections on Rogeman. Again, I'm trying to design this to be easier for you. So we'll turn it in then. And then we'll start our 2 days together. And we'll continue with contextual evangelism. You'll report back from your chapter draft. You'll come back and I think it says students will read 4 chapters. I think I said draft 5 up here. Is that a? See if I mix that up. If I did, I'll go with the lower number. Yep, sure enough. Fix that on your own syllabus. On the chapter draft, you only do 4 chapters instead of 5. I remember thinking that was too much, 5, so went down to 4. And you'll report on that when we get in there. Then we're going to be talking about Church Unique, how to analyze it. Has anybody read Will Mancini, Church Unique? Okay, I took it off the required reading. It was the thickest book on the reading. It's still a great book, but I will just be teaching it rather. And then you can take notes instead of having to read the whole book. But it's still a good book and worth a read. And I sent some. Yeah, that'll work. Then we're going to spend time looking over mission, and values, and how to develop those so that you can develop those in your church and for projects that you have. Again, no reading for that unit. We'll do our own vision, mission, values. Again, writing. We're going to be talking about proselytism and discipleship pathways, again, in person. And I'm in the process of recruiting some evangelists. So those who are in the Houston area, if you have somebody you'd recommend to come talk to us about evangelism, I would love to hear from you. I know some United Methodist connections, but if you know someone who you think would be good in the Houston area, let me know, because I want to bring them in just so y'all can hear a different voice on this than me and the videos that I share as well as the reading. Then we'll break up again, and we will have Unit 11 when we do the virtual mission field. And again, it's all about the experiment. How are you going to use strategy? This video you're going to be making is about the experiment. Is going to be exactly what you're going to be putting in part 2 about the digital evangelism. And then at the end, each student will make the 20-minute presentation on, here is the experiment, how we're going to do it, how we're going to lay it out, do a PowerPoint, and again, this is for 15% of your grade. And we'll watch each other's, and that will be that will fill up the last weeks of it. And then at the end, if any of you become a district superintendent or a church developer, or when you're thinking about developing strategies for your church at a macro level, we'll just have a class on that. And that's the only class that really isn't that applicable to your paper. And again, those readings are just small papers. The videos are quick videos that you can watch at 1.5 times speed. And again, your final assignment is to provide me feedback about what's good, what's bad. But please wait till the end of the course to fill this out, because I know some of you are feeling overwhelmed tonight. So please don't fill out your course evaluation just yet. So, all right. So that's our syllabus, our assignment. You have a lot of information. There's a lot there, but I'm hoping it's straightforward and hopefully taking it off in bite-sized pieces. It will be easy to choose and you will find this course to be a delicious meal. So questions, comments, feedback before we close out tonight. All right. Well, I appreciate y'all being here. I did want to keep it between an hour and a half, and we're at 8:15. And so if you'll allow me, I'd like to pray for y'all as we move forward. Merciful Lord, I do thank you for this evening, and I thank you for these students and their desire to learn more about you and how to share you, Lord, with a world that's full of bad news. Lord, we pray for those who have been affected by weather in these days and those who are in harm's way this evening. Lord, our world needs you. And Lord, help us be mindful of how you will have us respond to those in need. Watch over those who are traveling. And Lord, may we have a peace that passes understanding, knowing that you're the one who called us to this course. You're the one who called us into ministry, called us to seminary. And so we can count on you to do the heavy lifting. And we'll be sure to give you the glory. In Christ's name, amen. Blessings to y'all. Appreciate it. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you. and Good
Good
night.
evening, everybody.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, everyone.
Adios.